Just a little less than 20 years ago, we had a negative net worth. Why? Because we had $51,000 in credit card debt. Today, completely different story. We have a net worth over $1 million, primarily because of our retirement savings. How did we make this transformation?
Well, this is Queer Money episode number 541, and today we're sharing how we went from being buried in debt and living in a basement apartment to serial entrepreneurs with a net worth of over $1.3 million. All for our How Gays Retire fabulously bonus series. Now, on with the show.
Capital One Auto Navigator does more than just auto financing. We're here to help you find a car you love, too. Shop millions of cars from thousands of dealers nationwide. Research your favorite makes and models. Explore dealers near you and more. All on Auto Navigator.
If you're anything like us, we didn't talk about money when we first got together. As a matter of fact, John and I didn't talk about our finances together for more than a year and a half after getting together. But it was riding down the mountain coming from Winter Park, Colorado, that forced us to start talking about our finances. You see, John and I were in Winter Park fantasizing and actually talking with a realtor about buying land and building a modern vacation home. And the reality is we were financially and physically living in a hole. As we mentioned in the outset, we had $51,000 in credit card debt. We were living in a basement apartment that we were renting from a friend of ours. And get this, between the two of us, we had over 15 years of experience in financial services. We were definitely talking the talk, but not walking the walk.
Right. And we were physically and financially living in a hole.
Yes.
But the question has to be why, right? Why did we have all of this theoretical knowledge, right? Having been in the industry, helping other people with their finances, but we weren't helping ourselves. This was actually a question that David and I had to ask ourselves, and it took us several years to actually get to the truth because it took a lot of soul searching. But ultimately, what it came down to for us, and what we have found that it comes down to for a lot of folks when we do our speaking tours around the country, is that we came from times and places when it wasn't okay to be gay. So when we were finally adults and on our own, we felt like we had to prove to the bullies who picked on us in high school that, hey, we were worth something. And the best way to show that you're worth something in our consumer culture is to have all the designer clothing and go on all the amazing vacations.
Yeah, I think what was happening is we were overcompensating for the feelings that we had on the inside about ourselves by putting on things on the outside that would make people not think about those same things that we were thinking about ourselves on the inside.
Exactly. Well, then on the flip side, wasn't only, I think, trying to address the bullies and to prove to the family members who ostracized us and tried to make them jealous that they weren't still friendly with us, but it was also that now that we were part of the gay community, we felt like we had to do everything we could to sort of fit in with that community, right? We had to have the right jeans, go to the right places, attend all the right galas and parties. And church is trying to that's those two insecurities sort of coupled together are what sort of really put us in our credit card debt.
Yeah. We got into the queer community, and a community that says, be your authentic self, live your life the way you want to. But we have a very, very small box of what is acceptable for that level of authenticity to be accepted in the queer community. And John and I realized at the very beginning, we were still trying to fit into that box. And the way we were doing that was by spending a lot of money to prove to other people that we were worthy of hanging out with.
Yeah, exactly. So how did we start to change course, right? We had to take that first step to start paying off that $51,000 in credit card debt. And we know a lot of people who listen to this show, who we've visited with around the country, are also dealing with various amounts of credit card debt and other types of debt. Well, we actually came up with a 5-step process that we use to help get ourselves out of credit card debt. We call it the debt lasso method. We didn't do the snowball method or the avalanche method that are probably the more popular or most ubiquitous strategies followed out there. We followed our own method because we saw that the biggest variable or biggest hurdle for us paying off our debt fast was the high credit card interest rate that we were paying. So we wanted to address that. So we have the debt lasso method. If you want some materials on how you can use that method and apply it to your own life to help you get out of credit card debt, we encourage you to download the credit card debt slasher toolbox, which is available at debtfreeguys.com. And I think we have links on queermoneypodcast.com, right?
We do. And we'll drop a link in the description for this video. But what that encouraged John and I to do was to kind of think bigger about our lives, more than just the here and now and pleasing the people who we were surrounding ourselves with. What did we want our lives to really look like?
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One, NA, member FDIC.
And when we looked out into the future, a couple of years, a couple of decades, and into retirement, we said we want our lives to actually be something bigger than what we're thinking right now. And that's why we then designed a system that would help us not only pay off our debt, but to grow wealth after that, grow the kind of money that would allow us to live the life and live where we want to live when it comes to especially retirement. And we call that system the wealth pyramid, or the wealth builders pyramid. And one of the things that we did was we said, okay, how is this going to happen? And we realized that we all were already doing well by paying our debt off. But once we paid our debt off, instead of taking that money and enjoying an increased lifestyle, we said, let's increase our future lifestyle. And that's why we put more money into our 401ks, and we launched the business that we have now, Debt Free Guys, the Queer Money Podcast, and now the Living Not So Fabulously podcast/videocast that we have with Yahoo Finance. And we also started building a real estate portfolio. We actually live in a duplex here in Toledo. We could have a nice home, bigger home if we wanted to, but instead we've decided to maintain a smaller lifestyle and buy a duplex where we're renting out one side of it and living on the other. And this is helping us build a real estate portfolio, and it's not taking away single family homes from those who want them on the market.
Exactly. Now, we don't share any of this to sort of just brag about ourselves. We don't need to do that. We don't feel. What we do want to do is share these systems with you. One, to get the conversation started for this reoccurring series that we're going to cover for the next several months worth of Thursdays, but also to provide tools and resources and inspiration for our listeners and viewers who are thinking about how can they prepare for retirement. What are the T's they have to cross? What are the I's they have to dot? How can they pay off debt? How can they build diversity of income? How can they invest in real estate? How can they start their own business? We want to help you be able to answer all of these questions. And so you can start to put together the systems and the structure, the infrastructure to be able to have the retirement of your dreams. Because like we said in episode 1 of this series, one of the most reoccurring questions we get is from folks who are saying, how can I prepare for retirement when I haven't done anything up to this point, typically when they're in their 50s or even 60s in some cases. So we want to be able to help address that and provide answers to those folks and really get these conversations started sooner rather than later, so that more LGBTQ plus folks can achieve financial security and retire in Palm Springs, retire in New Zealand, retire in the Antarctic, whatever you want to do whatever it is you love to do, but so that you're not inhibited with what your options are because you don't have the systems and the foundation in place to have the retirement that you want.
And also, we want to encourage more folks to start earlier, right? The sooner we start thinking about and planning for and saving for retirement, the less we actually need to take away from our everyday life to put into our retirement savings. The earlier you start, the less money you actually need to set aside. Just like when you give someone an end of day deadline, if you wait until the very last minute of the day to start working on it, that's the only thing you can focus on, and that's all of your attention and energy. If you start working on it early in the day, you can work on it, take a break, work on something else, work on it, take a break, work on something else, right? The same thing that goes with our finances. The earlier we are thinking about and planning for our retirement, we have the ability to spend some money on fun, spend some money on our bills, spend some money on putting away for retirement. We have the ability to do that. Whereas if you wait until you're in your 50s, 60s, or maybe even 70s, all of your money is going to have to be focusing on retirement income money. And that's why I think so many queer folks are thinking about having to work in retirement, is because many of us didn't have those examples of how should we be planning for and executing on retirement. And that's why we're doing this. So we have some great examples for the baby gays.
Yeah, exactly. So we've just touched on a little bit of the systems that we've used to help get out of debt and to help build our wealth. We'll dive more into these systems as we go through deeper into this series. But we really want this to be a dialogue. We want to find out where you're at in your retirement planning.
Right, exactly. So in order for us to have a dialogue, we want you to answer a question. And our question for you this week, we had one last week. Our question for you this week is, how are you securing your retirement? What things are you doing right now to prepare for and plan for your retirement, setting aside money, things like that? Share those with us in the comments on this video, wherever you're watching. Or if you want to be a little bit more personal, you can definitely email us at info@queermoneypodcast.com. The mission of Queer Money is to financially empower the LGBTQ+ community. Join us in thanking Capital One for supporting that mission.
So thank you for joining us for another episode. Come back next Thursday when we continue to have the discussion about how we can all retire fabulously. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Bye.